So what I'm going to do today is show you how to make resin transfers like this. So you can make them with signs, you can make them with pictures in, or emojis, all sorts of things. I've done flowers and leaves and roses. I use these a lot in different projects. I also use them in my card making. I use them in so many different things, and they're really quick to make. And if you can't draw, don't worry, I'm going to show you a quick way of making something beautiful like this. Now, I'm going to be using a sheet of acetate here and also some StazOn solvent ink pad. I think this stuff is great for your outlines. And this is really the easy way to do it. All I do is put my stamp onto my stamping block, load this up, and then I can stamp this down. Try not to move it and jiggle it about too much, because if not, it will smudge it. And there you go. You've got a really nice stamp. Now, I do clean these up straight away, because if not, that StazOn stuff does mark them and stain the actual stamp itself. But it's not going to prevent you using it for anything else. I mean, it'll just be discoloured, that's all. So I'll just go ahead and I'll use this same StazOn ink on quite a few different stamps and put them on. Some I put on the ink block, some I don't. There we go. So we've got a rose there. We need a stem to that rose. Let's put a stem there. Well, coming off that rose like that. I'm going to do some balloons, because I love the balloons. They're really useful to have on cards everywhere. And I do myself a nice lot of these once I start making these. I've been making these for a long time because I like to have them in stock. So they're already made and done. Do some cupcakes, because these are always good as well to put on. Some normal balloon, well, some other balloons. They don't have to be up the right way, because we're going to be cutting these out once we've cast them in resin. So it's wherever we can really fit them. And if you make a mistake, a little bit of 99% alcohol will remove that. Just dry it off and then you can redo it again. That's better. I think we'll put another rose in. Yep, we'll get one in there as well. And then that's it. And then we leave that to dry. What we'll do now is we'll leave this to dry for an hour or so before we put any of the other details and colours in there. And then once we've done that, I'll show you how to turn them into some great stickers, transfers, or embellishments for your card making, crafting, or resin work. But I think you'll agree, they've certainly come out good so far. Now these are dry, and I left these overnight actually, only because I'd finished and I didn't get time to get back to them. What I'm going to do is colour them in. Now I'm going to be using a mixture of acrylic paints, these beautiful metallic markers that I absolutely love, and my permanent Spectrum Noir. You can also use paint pens as well, and that's really what these are. These are acrylic paint pens. And I like to be as colourful as I can. So for instance, let's do one of the balloons. So if I want a red balloon, then all I'll do is I'll colour that in like this. But if you want something slightly different on it, what I will do is I will wait for that to dry. So if you want some shadowing in it or something, I'll wait for that to dry, and then I'll remove a little bit first, and then I'll put a little shadow in it. Now make sure you go right up to, it doesn't even matter if you go slightly over the black lines, because that isn't going to show. But if you don't go right up to your black lines, what it will, you'll have like a little clear gap in it, and it's not going to look the same. So for instance, I've got a white marker here, and I want to put a bit of white in that balloon, looking like it's got a reflection on it. Wherever you want to do something like that, you need to remove first the paint that you've got there, because that's the paint that is going to show through at the end. And I'm just using a micro brush for this. It is actually easier if you do it when it's dry, but I couldn't be bothered to wait. There we go. So I've got that there now. And then all I do is I put my white in there like that. And I will do exactly the same if I'm colouring in, for instance, using these permanent markers. And they do give slightly different effects, and you'll see that when it's finished. It's really important to make sure that these are completely dry before you do the next stage, which I'll show you in a second. So I'm going to go ahead, I'll finish colouring all these in using these pens, and then I'll show you what to do next. Well, now I've finished colouring these in, what I'm going to do is leave this about an hour to make sure it's completely dry, because it's really important that everything is completely dry before you do the next stage. And they might look a little bit messy that way, but when you turn it over, this is what they're going to look like when they're finished, and that will come out lovely. But you must pour the resin on the side where you've coloured them in. Now I'm going to be using the J. Diction 4-hour demold resin. The reason is it's a nice thick resin. It mixes up really easily without many bubbles at all. And because of the viscosity is nice and thick, it will lay on here and won't run off. Let's leave these to dry and then we'll get on with that. Now these are dry and my resin's all mixed up, what I can do is pour it over. Now how I pour it over, because this is a nice thick resin, it's not really going to move and run off too far. I make sure I cover all my stickers first, going over it and wiggling it around to make sure that there's a nice even coat, because you want it to be a thin coat, but you want it to be as even as possible, because that will help you in a little while. You can also spread this out afterwards with a spatula as well to make sure that you've got that nice even coat. So this is why I wiggle all over it. Big thank you to all my members whose names are coming up now. If you'd like to become a member of my channel, then the link for that is in the description below. We have a great time. There's live streams coming up, lots of how-tos, competitions, raffles, all sorts of things, as well as having access to lots of experts, which really help you. Link in the description. So now I've gone round, I've wiggled over most of these, and I'm quite happy that these are now covered. And it's really important, because any bits that aren't covered, then they're just not going to attach to the stickers. And you will be really surprised how well this embeds itself permanently into the resin. You'll really be surprised when this comes up. Big thank you to everyone that got me a coffee last month. I really do appreciate it. So without your generosity and kindness of you guys tipping me for my videos, I wouldn't be able to keep making these videos. So thank you again. Link for that is in the description below. So once I've done that, I fill any gaps, and then I just go over it with a long neck lighter and pop any bubbles that come up, because the bubbles would spoil the stickers, and there isn't many in this resin, which is a great thing about it, but also it is good to get rid of any spare ones that are popping up. These have all cured now, and they've gone nice and hard, and the acetate should just pull off this back really quite easily. Don't rip it off really fast. You want to be able to pull this off so that it comes off in one nice piece, because then you can always wipe it over with some alcohol and use it again. Let's be frugal, people. It's quite cold in here today, and I need to cut these up and make them into a decent shape. So how I'm going to do that first is I'm going to just warm this up using my hairdryer for about a minute, just going all the way over it, and that'll warm it up enough at this stage, because it's not fully cured, to be able to cut it nice and easily. Let's have a look. Yeah, look how nice and foldy that is now. And all I need to do is rough cut this with my scissors while it's like this. If it needs to be reheated again, I can just reheat it. But once it's been cured for a couple of days, then it is a lot more difficult to do this. Now, if you want to go round it and make some nice shapes, you can. But if you also want to cut it out so it's exactly the same as the outline, you can do that as well. And I'll show you the difference on these two ladies. I've cut some out, and as you can see, this one I've cut all the way around it, and this one I've left a border. But what I didn't show you before is the difference in the side. So that's the side where we did all the printing. Even when you paint over the cupcake outlines, when you take it off, that will have been embedded into the actual resin itself. So it's all permanently in there. These make great stickers. Now, what I would suggest you do, if you're not going to put them into another project, then I would dome them. So this one I probably wouldn't dome, but I would put straight into another project so it looks really nice and gives a great transfer. With this one, I may turn into a sticker or a fridge magnet or put on a card. So I want it to have a bit more dimension. Now this one, I only cut out the actual rose itself rather than cut out the leaves as well. And I think that looks nice, and it's going to give it a bit more depth. And the same with the balloons. I didn't cut out the little black cords because they're quite fiddly and I think it will look fine like that. And I'm only going to dome the actual balloon itself. To dome these, what I'm going to be using is UV resin. I find that is the easiest thing to use to dome with, and especially now I've found the brilliant J. Diction UV resin. Now this is the one that comes in my kit. I think there's about 50 kits left across the UK and the USA, so get hold of one while you can, because they are a limited run and you'll save about 20 quid. You get tons in it. But if you can't get hold of one of my kits, then I will link the J. Diction UV resin below. Now all I'm going to do with this is put that on there and use the nozzle of the bottle to move it around to where I need it, and then I will leave it about 4 or 5 minutes before I cure it using the UV lamp that comes again with my kit, because I want to make sure there is no bubbles left in it at all. Now if you want to dome the leaves, you can. I'm not going to. I just want to dome that actual rose itself. So there's that one. And now with the lady, I'm going to dome all of her and do exactly the same thing, and then cure it up using the UV lamp. I'll do the same with the balloons and one of the cupcakes, and then I'll show you the difference between them being domed up and not domed up. Well, that's what they look like domed up, and I think they come out brilliantly. So that's the domed up one. So you could use that separately, put a magnet on it, or put it on a card, or do anything. And that's the one that I would put inside a project, because you don't need to dome it up, but you can really see the difference. I think it works really well on something like the balloons, because it gives it an extra dimension, and certainly on the rose. That would look lovely on a homemade card or a gift or something for someone. Really easy to make. You could probably make 100 or more of these at least in a day, and they do come out beautiful. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Don't forget, leave me a comment, let me know what you think of this. I will link a video at the end of this at the card coming up now on how I've used these in a project, and I think you'll love that. They work really, really well. Take care, enjoy your resin, bye.